Well, the National Rifle Association is holding its convention in Indianapolis in a massive show of support for the Second Amendment. Among those attending, some leading Republicans. Here's Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell.
This Kentuckian will continue to fight for your right to bear arms. That's my pledge to you today. We know the fight won't be easy. We've already seen what the federal government is capable of when it comes to targeting folks it disagrees with. We've seen it betray a really nasty side. Well, that behavior needs to stop.
Well, here's the question. Should this be a 1-2 punch for the GOP in the midterm elections? One being Obamacare, two being the right to bear arms. Let's bring in our political panel. Tim Miller is Executive Director of America Rising and former RNC Deputy Communications Director. And Chris Kofinas, former Chief of Staff to Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Gentlemen, thank you for talking to me today. This event draws 70,000 ardent supporters of the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. So it's a voter-rich event for possible contenders for the 2016 GOP presidential run. Among them, of course, let's name them: Governor Bobby Jindal, Senator Marco Rubio, former Senator Rick Santorum. So what do they have to do to be considered serious contenders? Tim?
Well, Kelly, look, I think that obviously this is going to be an important issue in the 2016 primaries for all these guys, and that's why you've seen them head out to Indianapolis this weekend. But even more pressing right now is looking at Mitch McConnell, and this issue is going to be a great wedge issue in the 2014 elections, where you've got Michael Bloomberg on one side and the NRA on the other side, and the NRA is much more popular in the states where these elections are being held, like Arkansas, Kentucky, where the majority leader, or the minority leader rather, is up for a tough re-election.
Well, Chris, the president's been trying to bring some gun control legislation. He's had a difficult time doing that. So what does he have to do in order to face this kind of opposition that he's now seeing from Republicans?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the notion of gun control is a misnomer. No one has proposed at any credible level, or it wasn't even the legislation that I saw, that had to do with actually taking away people's guns or any of the rhetoric that you saw at the NRA convention. It had to do with background checks, which, by the way, the NRA used to support. So, I mean, the reality is I don't think this is going to be an issue that Democrats are going to be pushing. It may come up. Obviously, I think the Republicans are going to try to exploit it politically. In the states that they're talking about, which is kind of the red states, whether you're talking about Arkansas or Alaska, you have Democrats who are in power, whether you're talking about Senator Mark Pryor or Senator Begich, who are pro-gun, and I don't think they're going to be weakened by the NRA positions about them suggesting they're trying to take guns away. I think the constituents know them a lot better than that.
I have to just disagree with that. The facts are that Michael Bloomberg and his Everytown project, he said he's putting $50 million into this election to push Democratic senators to the left on gun control and to advocate for exactly what you're saying Democrats don't want to do. So I think that there is a big gun control
agenda. Let me put it this way. I think you would say that Michael Bloomberg will be as effective as the Koch brothers are at influencing Republicans. So the reality is, Republicans like to say, well, we're not going to be influenced by the Koch brothers and all this money that's being spent one way or the other. The notion that Michael Bloomberg is going to influence how Mark Pryor decides to, positions he takes, or Mark Begich, the positions he takes, I think is kind of laughable. I mean, does Michael Bloomberg have every right to go out there and advocate his positions? Absolutely, but he's not going to influence these Democratic senators. That's not going to happen.
Well, Tim and Chris, let me take this a step further, because while Jindal and Senator Rubio and former Senator Santorum are slamming the Obama administration and, as you stated, former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg for trying to enact some sort of gun control, there's Indiana Governor Mike Pence taking a more subtle approach to all this. While he supports gun rights, he's also talking about some broader themes of freedom and state rights and how Indiana is balancing its budget. And can we take something from his message that he may be considering making a possible run for president and doing it in more of a subtle, softer, kinder way?
Well, look, I think that, when you look at governors like Mike Pence, you look at Scott Walker in Wisconsin, Governor Christie in New Jersey, that is the message that you're going to see from governors who are wanting to potentially look to run in 2016. Say, look, in our states, we're advocating for freedom, not just on the gun issue, but on economic issues and on a whole host of other issues, obviously health care. And you can see the accomplishments and the reforms that they're putting into effect in those states, like Governor Pence in Indiana, and absolutely that's going to be a platform for people like him to run for president from the ranks of the Republican governors.
Chris, what about Democrats? How are they going to combat this?
Well, I mean, I think, listen, in terms of the softer, kindler Republican Party, I like the idea of it because it's so comical, because it's actually the exact opposite of what we saw at the NRA convention, because listen, I think Governor Pence and others probably realize that you've got to, somehow communicate to a broader audience, and you can't go out there with just red meat, especially on positions that a lot of constituents, whether it's immigration or even gun control, that they don't share with Republicans.
All right, Chris,
but the problem the Republican Party has is how do you keep quiet a Tea Party wing that is not going to keep quiet?
Well, finally, since you've talked about that part of the Republican Party, we are in a midterm election, as both of you know, midterm election year, and it doesn't appear that Congress is going to take up any action at all on immigration reform, gun legislation, or any other pressing matters. And gentlemen, there was a time when Congress would take action no matter what type of year it was. So how do we get to this place in the first place where Congress doesn't do anything during an election season?
Well, look, I think that we're in a period of divided government. What you've seen from the House of Representatives and under John Boehner is they put forth a number of plans that have passed through the House of Representatives. They're getting killed in the Senate over by Harry Reid. And, I'm sure when you pass it over to Chris, he'll say the same thing, but vice versa. And so what we need to do looking ahead to 2014 is if the Republicans can take back the Senate in races like Arkansas, Louisiana, North Carolina, Alaska, and you can have a fully Republican Congress, then they're going to have to force the president to come to the table for the last 2 years.
Chris, I got to leave it there. I'm sorry. But Chris Kofinas and Tim Miller, we thank you both shedding your perspectives on this particular topic that's going to be looming large, not only in the midterms, but coming up in the 2016 presidential election as well. Jamie?
Thanks for having us.
Sure.
Thank you.